This session is on the Admissions Online Resource Center that we find will really help to engage you and equip you and empower you with the necessary information you need here as a student, not just as a freshman student, but throughout your tenure here at Lawson State. So the very first thing you need to do to access the Admissions and Records Resource Center, or Online Resource Center, is to go to our website, which is www.lawsonstate.edu. And the very first thing you want to do is look over here to the left as you see sort of this laundry list of areas and find the admissions link, which is now highlighted in gold. And go ahead, and I'm right here. I'm going to go ahead and click the admissions link. And this I absolutely love this particular internal site because it really does provide students with all of the information that they really need as students. If you notice, the very first thing is that we see is an attention window that just popped up. Let's take a look. It reads, request LSC transcripts online. See online transcript request link below. Transcripts will be processed within 24 to 48 hours, and it goes on for some more information. So this particular attention box can change, so it depends on when you're actually accessing the site. But you can see that the records office and admissions office will always put helpful information out there for you. So let's go ahead and hit the X box and get rid of this pop-up window. We're going to scroll down. I'm going to stop right here. The next thing you'll see is the actual schedule. Now remember, we're looking at this at the time of the recording. So if you're viewing this in 2010 or 2011, 12, 13, 14, 15, it really doesn't matter. You're going to see the current schedule that's available at that time when you come on this site. Now we're going to go in here. Now remember, this is going to show you the live schedule. Now there's a separate integrity session on how to navigate within this area, so we're not going to spend time here talking about it. But I just wanted to take us there quickly. And when we say, just so you know, when we say live schedule, that means that it will show you, as we're in the registration mode, which classes are open, which classes are closed, and which classes are canceled. So it's a very helpful tool as you are working and registering for the semester. So let's scroll down. One of the reasons why I love this site so much really has to do with this area right here, if you can see the little arrow in the hand. And that's the records office forms or the admissions office forms. If you click one or the other, it's going to take you to the same location. So let's go ahead and click this. And the way you need to look at this is that every form imaginable that you can think of that you'll need as you work at Lawson State in terms of as a student, they're located right here on this page. So that means, for example, let's go to one of the most important ones, and that's the change of record request. Now these are all hyperlinks, so let's go in. And voila, there's the form. Now I'm going to shrink this for us a little bit so we can see the bulk of the form. And this is a change of record request form. Now what I'm going to do through this presentation is kind of walk you through some of the most important forms so you're aware of not only how to get to them and how to actually print them for your own personal use, but also how to fill them out. So let's take a look. First, paying attention to the form, change of record request form. You actually use this form whenever there's a situation in which anything has changed in your records here at Lawson State. For example, let's say you recently got married and your name has changed. Well, you need to fill this form out so we can change that within our system. Or maybe you had an address change, or a phone number change, or your student number change, or especially your major change. And that's what students typically use this form for. So if you actually want to change your major, you can't just arbitrarily change your major. I mean, you can change it, but you need to do it officially in the college or at the college. So let's go ahead and take a look. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you a couple things before we actually show you the tutorial here. First, just looking at the larger screen here, if you look over here, right here, you're going to see this is where you're able to print this document. So you see the little printer over here, and you just click it and it will print, okay? You can also, of course, save this form if you want to, and you can also come over here and you can still print from this option as well, okay? So the other thing I want to caution you about when watching this particular presentation, whenever I pull up my pen, which I'm going to pull up in a minute, sometimes your screen will go white or black for just a few seconds, but don't let that alarm you. That's normal. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do, okay, here we go. And you can see right here, we have student signature and the advisor's signature right here. Okay. All right, so that is the change of record request form. It does require a signature from your advisor in order to get this processed. So now I'm going to just hit the back browser, and that'll take us back, and there we are. All right, and as you can see, these are all the different forms, but notice to the right, it'll also go through the purpose of the form with you as well. So not just, these forms are for faculty as well as students. And so let's take a look, for example, change of record request is the one we just went over. It says use to change your program award, name, address, etc. So you see how it gives you information. Now let's take a look at some other things that I think are very important for you to be aware of. All of you are aware that you have to take the Compass score. And so this is if you wanted to move and take that information and transfer it over to release that information to a different school. Okay? And that's what you would do to ensure that you can do that. So you don't have to retake that over and over again. This is also a Compass study guide, which I think is very important for you to understand. Sometimes you're able to retake the Compass. For example, let's say that you are a health profession student, you're a nursing major, and you're trying to get into the program, and you want to retake the Compass to get a higher score on reading, for example. Well, this particular area will take you not only through the information about the exam, but also it's going to review for you the different sections. As you see, mathematics, it's right here. But this is sort of like a mini tutorial. And we're just walking through the math section. I'm going through it and it also gives you, as you can see, the answers to the sample exercises. So if we go further down, you'll see that it gets into the reading portion as well. Okay, so it's just important again for you to be aware that these things are sitting out there for your consumption. Okay. The other thing that I really want to highlight is the add and drop form, as you can see right here. But before we go there, let's scroll down, and I want to really call your attention first to the trial schedule. The trial schedule is probably one of those forms that you're going to use every year, at least 3 times a year. And the reason why we say 3 is because you use this form every year when you're about to pre-register. Now, although we do online registration live, online, you still have to kind of do your homework first. So you can come out here and print off the trial schedule, and I'm going to shrink this document so we can see it a little bit better. Okay. And notice that you have the information at the top, your student number, which is right here at the top. Okay. The name, mailing address, and we're going to actually fill this section out so you'll see. I'll come down here and fill this out in a few minutes. And scroll down to the bottom. This is the final, your first schedule, and this is alternatives. That's important in case something is canceled or closed. But remember, you can always go out to that link that I showed you earlier, which was that live schedule link, as you're building your schedule to kind of check these things first before you actually work on the trial schedule. So the idea is to do your trial schedule at home first, okay, with your degree plan, okay, that you can get all this information from the student suite. So you have it right before you're going to go online to register. So this is what you need to do first before you attempt to register online. So let's do this. I'm going to pull my pen out, and again, if your screen goes white, just ignore it. So again, that's the trial schedule registration form. Now let's go back out again. I'm just going up to the blue browser button here and getting out of that. Now that's the first step of your registration process. and then you'll go online and finish that. But let's say that you're already registered, everything is fine, but then you realize you have a conflict that was unforeseen. Maybe your work hours changed, whatever the reason. Now you need to add and drop from the course. So what we're going to do is go out here. Again, you don't have to run to the Admissions and Records Office. This information is already out there for you. So here's the add and drop form. Let's take a look at it. Now there's that famous student number. Now you're quite familiar with that. The name and information, right? Whether you are paid, that means you're registered, or not paid. Hopefully you are already paid. Let's scroll down. And you have the courses that you're going to add. Notice that they go up here in this window. And the courses that you're going to drop, or the course you're dropping, goes below. Now, one thing that's important that you need to understand is that you can't just arbitrarily add and drop classes at will. The college regulates the start of add and drop and the end date of add and drop. So the college establishes that little window of time. It's usually at the very beginning of the semester. Okay, it doesn't go on and on and on. If you are trying to drop a course, not add, but drop a course beyond the deadline for add and drop, you actually have to fill out a withdrawal form, which we'll look at in a few seconds. Okay, a few minutes. Okay, so let's go through. We looked at the form. Let's look at the bottom of it. The student signature is required, but notice that the advisor's signature is not required. So you can do this on your own. But notice also that the instructor's signature is required, because it's important, for example, if you're adding a course, that instructor approves you adding to their course, because you're probably adding late. That means you may be coming in a day or two late. The other thing is that the instructor that you're dropping, that instructor has the right to know if you're dropping their course, so they're not out there looking for you. All right, so let's just use this and we'll fill it out. I'm going to skip the student number part because you already know how to do that. All right, so let's go in here again. I'm going to pull up then we're going to hit our back browser. Again, that was the add and drop form. Now remember earlier I told you that if you're beyond the deadline for adding and dropping, then what you're going to need to do is go out here and do a withdrawal form. Okay? And this is what the withdrawal form looks like. Okay? Take a look. Withdrawal, student's name, student number. But notice it's going to ask you for the reason for this withdrawal. The reason for the withdrawal. Because, you're withdrawing past the add and drop date. And also, withdrawals can affect you in terms of your financial aid status, in terms of your refundability if you paid cash for the course. It has all kinds of ramifications. Also, if you're withdrawing really late, you can be penalized in terms of whether you were passing the class or whether you were not. So they want to know the reason. Okay. Now the other thing, if you notice here, of course, they want to know the course number, which is right here. The credit hours of the course, right here. Now notice this. This is the grade status. That means that, notice that before when we did the add and drop form, they weren't asking you about whether you were passing or failing the class. But with withdrawal, because it's past the deadline, and depending upon where you are in that deadline or how far you are from that deadline, it could potentially impact your grades. So the teacher, depending upon when you withdraw, they're going to be required to either put a W, a WP, or a WF in this little window. Okay? And then also if we scroll down, notice you have to go through several windows here, or signatures, when you're withdrawing. First, the student's signature, which is right here. Then the advisor's signature, your advisor, or retention counselor. You can't locate your advisor right away. You can go to a retention counselor. Someone needs to talk to you about why you are withdrawing. And so hopefully they may encourage you to stay in the course if it's possible, if it can be worked out. But if it's not possible, they'll go ahead and sign. Also, if you're a financial aid student only, then you will have to get the financial aid services officer to sign your withdrawal form. If you are a cash paying student, you will not have to go by financial aid. You will have to go by the business office and of course the records office, as well. So you're just going to kind of go in the order of the signatures. Okay, they're lined up in a particular order for a reason. Okay. So here is the withdrawal form. Okay. All right, now let me for that confusion, but I just thought about that. And what made me remember that is if you notice at the bottom here, it says Registrar's Office white copy, student yellow, and Business Office pink. So it is actually has different copies underneath it. Okay, we're going to go out. But at least you can use that as a guide to know how to fill out that form. So those are the main ones that I really wanted you to be aware of in terms of what's on this what's within this particular window. So now let's go back to our other page. Okay, you may recall this is where we started off. Okay, does it look familiar? Very good. So the other thing that I want to bring you to your attention that's another really wonderful thing about the Admissions Resource Center is that now what it's going to do, if you go down here down below, you will see that it's explaining, it has all these hyperlinks available to explain some very important procedures and policies that regulate you as a student here at Lawson State. Okay, so for example, you see the textbook refund policy. I think most students would be interested in that. You may in fact find yourself in a situation in which you need to return a book. Well, you can find out the information about that right here. Here is one that says registration. This is going to explain to you about the registration period. And then down below, if we scroll, this talks about various classifications. A lot of times students want to know, well, what makes you a full-time student? What makes you a part-time student? Notice here that a full-time student is a student who is enrolled for 12 or more semester hours, and a part-time student is a student who is enrolled for fewer than 12 semester hours. What's a freshman? What's a sophomore? You see? So you can see that it has very useful information. Class attendance is talking here about class attendance. And let me say to you that, notice this first sentence, attendance is expected at all classes. And let me remind you students that you should always attend your classes from day one. If you're working out your financial aid situation, or maybe you're working with a tuition management system, if you're a cash paying student, let's say that they're waiting on paperwork, that's fine. You know, you spend some urgency getting them the paperwork that they need, but you still need to attend your classes from day one. I want to make sure you're clear about that. Also, you can see here we have the withdrawal process explained to you and explaining all of that. We have student insurance information, the statute of limitations in terms of your courses. So again, you can just see that it's all kinds of information out here. And I'm going to scroll down just a little bit. Because what's another thing that's very important, I wanted to bring your attention to this is the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act of 1974, FERPA transcript policy. This has to do with your privacy rights as a student, okay? And also goes over the retention of student records. So you are expected to really read and understand FERPA and understand what and how the college is required to protect your privacy as well as your student records here at the college. Okay. And by the way, this information is also in our catalog if you would like to just go through the catalog and read it that way. Retention of student records, you can see that. Adding and dropping courses, the specifics about adding and dropping courses. So I think you get my point that, again, the college is determined really to make sure that we equip, empower, and engage you. And so we are empowering you by giving you all of this information. And students, let me just say this in terms of your Freshman Academy course. One of the things that we're trying to teach you within this course is that it's important to engage in the process, go out, be resourceful, look up information. We don't mind you asking questions. In fact, we encourage you to ask questions. But what we really want you to do, we want you to investigate first and then ask questions. So in other words, let's say what we're saying is that we'd rather you go out here and read about registration and then ask the question. Okay? So it's very important. And that's what we mean by being resourceful. Okay. I hope that you have found this particular presentation really a surprise to you. Many students aren't aware that all that information is right there and you can print it from home or go to the library and print it right there. Okay? So again, I hope it has been helpful. If you have any more questions as it relates to the Admissions Resource Center that's provided online, feel free to ask your Freshman Academy instructor. Thank you.